And we're live.
We're live. Welcome to Hobby Vomit.
Don't tell me what to make. I don't care about your take. It's my channel, and I do what I want. Wah! Don't tell me.
We'll have to send it to Lowe's.
Okay, we're back. So
We're
first
back?
of all, we got to say
Oh my god.
thank you to Adele for sending us that, we commissioned her, but she wanted to do it for free. And so we just wanted to thank her on the channel for our theme song, Grammy Award winning artist Adele.
Oh, so, I thought it was Adele Nazim. Was it not
Adele Nazim? Yeah, the wickedly talented. All right, well,
yeah, so Matt has made a theme song for our channel, which we are tentatively trying out, but we're all very excited for it. Hopefully you all enjoy it. Los is very confused because we haven't sent it to him yet.
True, you
but
haven't seen it.
Today we have a special guest joining us from our Discord, so we'll get into that in a second. But as always, of course, welcome to Hobby Vomit. So we have me, Ian, and I think you're below me, right?
Yep, I'm Matt. Hello.
And then we have our special guest, Los. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes. I am Los, their friend, the giant. On your left, I'm sure.
And we are getting Los on a super high right now after coming back from MCDC, which looked from the pictures super fun. And I've seen a lot of other content creators posting out as well. It seemed like it was just an overall really good time.
It was.
Yeah. Awesome. And
I also wanted to quickly say, Jonesy is not gone forever, Josh. He's just missing this episode. So yeah, he should be back, and then there will likely be 4 of us going forward with, every once in a while someone might not be able to make it, but yeah. So cool.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there who like to talk about like cast changes and stuff like that. That's not what this is. So
crossover episode.
There's no soap opera going on here in the background. Yeah, Jonesy unfortunately is just very busy with work. But so send him good thoughts and prayers as he's trying to get through all of that, and we will catch him for the next one. So, But as always, I think we're pretty much ready to get into it. So again, just a quick reminder on what we're doing here. But this is our series going through Empire of Silence. So far, it's been really good. So I expect that there will be more books from the Sun Eater series in the future. Spoiler alert: I have already ordered the next one on Audible. Nice. But as always, this is going to be our third part. There's no structured parts in the book. This is chapters 45 through 63. This is going to be heavily include spoilers because we're going to be talking about all of our thoughts related to these chapters. But we've not read past 63, or at least we will not be talking about any of the chapters past 63, so you don't need to be worried about us spoiling the future. However, if you have not read up to 63 yet, then this would be your opportunity to pause the video and come back and join us once you've read it. But as always, for those of you who are watching, we just thank you for joining us, and we'd love to see what you have to say about this chapter. We get veterans and sort of first readers alike, and it's always really, really cool to see what you guys have to say. If you haven't watched our first 2, please go watch them at your own convenience. And then after we do our 4th one, which will be our last one, then we'll do kind of an overall book review and our sort of classic barf review where we rate the book on different categories and share our thoughts on that. So tune in for those videos when they come out. But yeah, and we'll talk more about kind of when they'll possibly be released at the end of everything. So Matt, did I forget anything?
No, I think you nailed it.
There we go. So with that, Matt, do you want to kind of break down what happened in the last part?
Yeah, so we're going to follow the same format as we normally do. We'll talk about high-level overview of the previous part, followed by the high-level overview of the part that we are currently about to talk about. And then we'll kind of get into just generally, did we like it or not? Then we'll talk about plot, and we'll just deep dive whatever we feel like talking about in whatever order we feel like talking about it in. And then to wrap up the video, we'll just talk about our specific likes and dislikes, as well as any predictions we have for the next part or the final part. And I forgot, we'll also touch on previous predictions before we get into the plot. So let's start with the high-level overview of the previous part, just so we know where we're starting this part. So again, just going to reach off my notes. Hadrian, and so in part 2, the previous chapters, Hadrian found love in the streets of Emesh. Hadrian found a new family in the Colosso on Emesh. Hadrian encountered a Cielsen for the first time, and then Hadrian start over with a new job. again. And then all the while, Hadrian is attempting to find a way off of Emesh. So that's what happened last time. And then high-level overview of this part. Here we go. Hadrian is horny. Like, super horny. Like, so super horny that he throws away literal years of work of protecting himself and his mother because my guy wants it bad. Then also Hadrian duels and kills Gilliam. The Quiet are introduced, and Ballium Mataro's real plans are revealed. And then Hadrian has a new purpose. Again. So that's kind of what happens in this part. Mostly the horny stuff, because that's basically what this whole part was.
Oh, yes, this reminds me of my sophomore year of college. I was an RA, and I had a guy on my floor who bought like the biggest box of condoms that you could purchase. And by the end of the academic year, he was down like 2 condoms, and I found out they were the ones that he ripped open just to make sure there was something inside.
Oh, boy.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Well, yeah. So basically, Hadrian. Yeah. So real quick, just very, very quickly, did you like this part? And then we'll get into kind of the deep dive. So if anyone wants to kick that off, Los, what do you think?
I can go and kick it off. Unless Los, do you want to get going? Oh, sorry.
Sure. I mean, I can share. Yeah.
How dare you?
No, you're good. Yeah, I really did actually enjoy this part. I just saw Hadrian himself, like you can see that he's like coming into himself. It kind of feels like. And what's weird about this is that I think that as he's coming into himself, he mentions a couple of times that he's putting on like his father's kind of mask in a lot of the reactions that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting more and more comfortable showing that side of himself, the Marlowe side. So I thought that was interesting, and it really I guess it kind of it made the book a little bit more interesting to me. I like that element of it. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, so I definitely enjoyed this part, and I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than the previous part. And certainly I would say too, like the previous part leading into this, obviously there's a continuum of a story here. And so, obviously like in hindsight, this I think has helped the previous part in a way because it's sort of set up for a lot of the key details that we're seeing here. But I still think the first part is probably my favorite, but I guess there is something to be said of the first part is almost like its own prologue. And like even more so now because it's so distinct, with us being on Delos. I think sort of that being its own story. And then now it sort of feels like there's this other story, which is we got that as the background. Now we can like finally like understand kind of what's happening in his story with Emesh. I really liked that with this part, we're starting to get a lot more of a definitive understanding of how the different people are oriented within the politic of Emesh, but also just like within the grander scope of the empire. And I like the fact that the narrator for this particular part, I think, has given us a lot more of an understanding of where this story is going. And that has made me really intrigued. And I love that it was presented almost in these kind of parallels, where in the last part, we got a better timeline of what's kind of happening with Hadrian getting to Emesh. And then now we're sort of getting a better timeline of like what's going to happen with Hadrian in the future and like how far in the future and what kind of significant events will happen. And like overall, what's his critique of himself looking back. And so I really especially enjoyed the narrator in this particular part.
Nice. Yeah, I also enjoyed it. Well, I'll talk more about just my specific likes as we go forward. But yeah, I like. I'm just the politics are what's interesting to me in learning about the greater whatever universe or whatnot. So I thought there were some really great revelations in this part. My biggest thing that I'm getting caught up on, which I feel like it works for the story, is like every time I feel like I'm liking a side character, we just don't see them again. and that's true of this. Like with like Sepha the Doctor and like all of the Myrmidons and stuff. I know we briefly see Polino and Switch, but it does feel like, all right, well, like I like Valka. I think Valka's got a very strong personality, a great personality. But now I'm like, are we even going to see her next part? Is she just going to disappear like everyone else? Like, I want to get attached to her because to me, I feel like she's maybe the strongest side character since Kat. But I just am afraid that I'm going to get. I don't want it to just be Hadrian because I like Hadrian, but he's definitely in his dramatic phase right now, and it's starting to bother me a little bit. I'm ready to move forward from that. So we'll talk about that maybe a little more. But he's very dramatic. But let's talk about our previous predictions and see if we touched on any of those. So I thought that Lady Liliana and Kyra, this is from like the previous part, either get caught, punished, or killed. Haven't heard from them. Cielson aren't really bad, just alien. Who knows? We leave Emesh, hasn't happened. Maki-san the Cielson doesn't make it off Emesh. Woo! Got that one right. But provides Hadrian with what he needs to get in the Cielson's good graces. No. Old Crow and Sepha. I mean, I'm dropping names here like that we haven't heard in hundreds of pages.
Who are these people again?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Were these characters? Are you sure?
Yeah.
No, the Old Crow was. I thought that was Polino. Was that not Polino?
No, Crow was the guy like in the cafe that Hadrian just like he's stealing like a purse and sits down. The guy's like, "Hey, you know how you can make some money?"
Oh,
Join
the
the
Old
thing.
Crow. You're talking about the sailor. Yeah.
I thought like maybe we'd be like
Okay.
he's got like a cool name and stuff, but it's just like nope, we're just never gonna see him again. I do think so. I also thought that maybe one of, assuming we actually leave Emesh, one of the Mataro children will go with them. And then somebody from Medua starts to track them down. So I'm whiffing all over the place, but we'll see going into the final part. And then Ian. I was reading Ian and looking at Hadrian. Ian. Adrian.
My wife was stealing the baby pillow. Obviously, I don't need it, so it makes sense. But yeah, she was trying to like
Pillow
sneak
for
under,
babies.
but she can't really like lean over too much because she's holding a baby.
Oh.
So previous predictions I had when I hadn't recorded them, but obviously some of the easy ones were expected the Cielson to die, which of course happened. Now I expected Hadrian to fight the Cielson, which of course did not happen, and it was actually a relatively short scene, all things considered. I really expected it to be a little bit more dramatic or drawn out. I expected Hadrian to be a little bit less fearful for his mom, considering the length of time that has taken place. That hasn't really happened, and in fact, it's sort of implied that the exact opposite is true. However, I'm still wondering because that came before the revelation of kind of him being disowned. So I wonder if now that he'll be sort of less interested, or less concerned, because presumably if something bad had happened, it would have already happened. I expected him to leave a mesh. That hasn't happened, but actually, I mean, Matt, can we give like a half point because we did sort of leave the city, right? Like
That's true. Yeah,
feel like
Emesh
there's a
is just
half
the
point.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Medua. We never said he was gonna leave Medua.
Or Borsivo is the city. But that's not really. If you had said leave Borsivo, I'd give it to you.
There we go.
I'd give it to you.
We traded continents. It was like halfway off the planet.
That's what we meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
You gotta read between the lines.
I didn't really have any predictions, since obviously, but I will make one point. I do think we were so close on breaking up the parts. I think it was just one chapter too long.
Yep.
Because if that final chapter changes your viewpoint of everything before it, like trying to go back and think about that perspective now, knowing what we know on chapter what was it, 60, 63?
Yeah.
With that revelation, it kind of changes a lot of things.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
But
cool.
Yep.
Let's get into the just deeper discussion, and I want to kick it off. There's a couple like big things that happen, like major things that happen that I think are good kind of talking points. I don't want to talk about the romance first because the sexual
Your
tension
favorite subject?
that goes on in this part it's unreal. Like, just do it or don't. Like,
You don't
come
like
on.
the edging? You don't
God
like the
damn,
edging, boy?
like it's insufferable.
We learned something new about you.
Yeah. So honestly, I think the star of this part for me, even though she hasn't been in it too much, is Ligeia Voss, or I don't know how you Ligia. I don't know how they say it in the
The Grand
audiobook.
Prior.
The Grand Prior.
We pronounce it Legia in the.
Ligia.
We're pretty close. Yeah, Legia.
Ligia Voss. I really like
Mhm.
her. I think she's a scary lady. I think we are going to have some very major problems with her. And I don't know, like I was feeling this way about Gilliam, and then it was just like, oh no, Gilliam's not the one I need to be afraid of. It's Legia.
Mhm.
So what do you guys think of her?
Yeah, I mean, quite an intimidating figure, and it is interesting because I feel like we don't get as much set up for her as we, for example, have gotten with Gillian Voss, which
Mm-hmm.
makes sense, of course, because and I was kind of thinking this too, and we had talked about this in the last one that it sort of was setting him up to be the antagonist, right, the bad guy, not really the antagonist, but the bad guy, the point of conflict for this particular set of chapters, and that certainly was true, but. I think she is a really interesting figure when you consider the larger context because she's this grand prior of the Chantry, but she has an intis for a son,
Yeah,
which presumably is like that's not okay.
like and from my understanding, natural birth,
Yeah,
right?
it's a natural birth.
We
Yep.
don't know if who the father is, because when we first met Gilliam, yeah, we didn't know. We just knew he was an Intis, a bastard son of somebody of a Palatine,
Yep.
but we didn't
Yep.
know if it was like, the he was with his natural father or mother, or if it just meant they still did the gene things but without going through the church. But we kind of got some clarity on that, and yeah, it's like the worst possible like type of corruption. It's like she is the grand prior and the natural mother. So yeah, you're right. I think the large picture of it doesn't look great for her.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. She it is definitely one of the more complex characters because yes, she did have a natural born birth. As so she kind of does go against the religion, or the the pious nature. But we also know based on that dinner, she had said that Hadrian, when after he made those that after he told that story and made the comments, she was like, you would have made a good priest. And knowing what we know now in chapter 63, she quite possibly, what do you guys think? Did she had to have known at that point that of Hadrian, right?
Like who? Like it? Like once we find out, like that Bataro, basically
Yes.
contacted his father right away. I
He
don't.
contacted his father right away. He immediately disowned him, and so
Mhm.
the Chantry had to have known at that point. So why did she not take, or tell her son if that were the case? Because it didn't seem like she would keep anything from her son, right?
No, I don't think
Um,
so. I think I kind of read into it as like Bataro was keeping it from the Chantry, to until like because they almost pitch it at first as like, I'm gonna keep you here. Well, we find out why he's keeping Hadrian, because he wants the good
the
genes.
genes,
He wants the
right?
good genes, but
Sure.
when he first captures them, if he just contacts the dad, uh, whatever his name is, I can't remember his name. I don't necessarily know if there's any reason for them to contact the Chantry. Uh, I don't know what except for like maybe they have to like by law or whatever, but I'm not sure.
Everybody knows that it's gonna get out though. I wouldn't think that Lord Marlowe would just leave that because it's kind of a loose end. And he signed a document with his own ring, right? Like
Mhm.
he wouldn't just leave the Chantry high and dry. Like they should have known about this.
Yeah.
And so the Grand Prior should have known. So I don't know. I feel like if she did at that point and she was playing it like that and she made that comment, like you would have made a good priest, and it was kind of like tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
He thought that she was paying him. He thought that she was paying him a compliment. She was paying him a compliment, but really it was her telling her like, hey, I know,
Yeah, that's interesting.
basically, and so it kind of adds that other level to that whole conversation as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's one of those. I mean, I think that's a really interesting interpretation of it, and I think if you take that interpretation, I don't know that it still conflicts with what we've seen. Because like for example, it still could make logical sense that Gilliam Voss would behave the way that he would do, that he did, whether or not he knew. And honestly, like, I mean, it could have, in some ways, I mean, it could have just encouraged it, right? I mean, he was pretty against Hadrian the entire time, and Hadrian had his own sort of speculation as to why that was the case. But
True.
one could
Yeah.
even say that, and there's even a line in there which was really nice, which was really awesome about how people which lack a thing are the most aggressive towards it, right? And so weaker men always are the most boastful, but really could have been the case that he is jealous of this particular person, right? This, off-world Palatine who just gets to be everything that Gilliam Voss would want to be. Presumably, Gilliam Voss is of the Chantry, but hidden away in a mesh because he's an abomination in the side of the Chantry. But here's this off-worlder who, just because of his birth and how and the importance of his genes, gets to just go to the Chantry, right, and be one of the highest stations, potentially being a future inquisitor and things like that. So he could have been raging against him out of envy for the significance of his position. And then even the things like, oh, you can't do this, like you can't challenge him, right, would still make sense because he can't do that without outing himself.
Right, right. Like
Right.
he would think that he would out himself at this time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree.
Well, I think there's a really defining moment when Gilliam dies. His last words are to not trust something or someone which we don't know. What do you guys think? Well, first of all, I can't remember exactly who he is saying that to. But
My lord, my lady. Well, he said my lord, my lady.
so
So
the
he
kids.
was it was the kids. So
Yeah.
So
Um,
I think Hadrian interprets it as, and maybe us the reader are supposed to interpret it as, don't trust Hadrian.
mhm.
But it could mean don't trust his mom. I mean, like,
yeah, the grand prior.
it could
Yeah,
mean
we
that,
don't know.
or he might know that the father uh, was already doing things behind the scenes. We don't really know, which I found I don't think we'll ever know either. But I like that we might never know, because Gilliam may not have been as bad as we think. I mean, he definitely was bad. He did some
Right.
bad things, but I don't know. He clearly had some love for the kids. I think he did genuinely care for them and probably wanted what was best for them. So yeah, I did find that part really interesting, that those were like in his final moments, that this was the thing he needed to say, was for them to not trust somebody or something.
Mm-hmm.
It could just
Yeah,
be the Chantry, honestly.
Well, it could have been the Chantry. It could have been it could have been his mom. It could have been their parents.
Could have been the deal or whatever. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
There was also something I thought was kind of interesting, which was the author made several points to talk about the intis being able to see or not see. And there was this kind of, he keeps bringing up this idea that it was strange that people didn't see him for who he was, or like sniff out his blood, was like, I think, one of the phrases he used. So one of the things I always thought was kind of fascinating with that coming back up is like, what if, again, kind of going back to maybe some of the interpretation Lois brought up, but like, what if Gilliam actually did know something about Hadrian and his Palatine upbringing, but like, what if he actually sensed something else and deeper? That was like the reason why he really did not like Hadrian, or continued to grapple with Hadrian, or accuse him of like being like a witch magus, right, or whatever his joke was. But like, that's kind of interesting too. If like, what if Gilliam was like one of the first people who could actually kind of, in some sense, foresee some of what Hadrian would do in the future, which is a bit of like an auspicious but kind of spooky and interesting way to interpret it, where he spends that last moment now dying and he's just like, don't trust, because he just kind of has this feeling, right, that like Hadrian's going to do something horrible in the future.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
No, no.
I like it. I like the open ending. We don't
Mhm.
necessarily need it.
Yep.
I think it works better that we don't have it, but it's fun to it makes it fun to think about. But yeah, so back to real quick to Ligeia. She's the one that performs the ceremony, and that's I think maybe the first time we see her. She's the one that comes down and performs the beheading of the Cielsen with Ian, I know you love your special weapon, so they do have a special weapon for this. I can't remember the name.
The white sword.
The white sword.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like a ceremonial sword. It's like a flat blade. It's not like pointed or anything, but also maybe hard to like. They don't let. Is his name Dorian?
Yeah.
They don't.
The brother.
Yeah, the brother.
Yeah, the one whose birthday it is.
The
Yeah.
one whose birthday. Yeah. So they don't even let him do it because it's like, it's hard to master. I guess. Like they didn't want him not doing a clean cut or anything, but she is the one that performs it for him, and it's yeah, like you said, it's very quick, but very ceremonial, and I think the white sword will be relevant. Feels like.
Yeah, it kind of remind me of I don't know if you guys ever watched the show Shogun. This is not a spoiler or anything. It's actually quite a good show, and the book is supposed to be pretty good as well.
I really want to read it.
But there's a scene in the story where the one of the lead guys who, as a child, he was asked to be the second for this defeated general who was going to commit seppuku. And they always talk about how even as a child he was, asked to be the second, and he like was able to decapitate this person with one swing of a sword, and how this was so fortuitous for like what his future would be as this general of Japan. And so he gets like really slighted by this comment, and then like in private we find out that that's not at all what happened. That he was chose a second to shame him because he was like a child, and to like make him bear the consequences of the fact that he was the one who defeated this general. And it actually took him like 13 swings of his sword. This conversation just ends with like, who the hell chooses a child to like be the second to like decapitate them? That you can't wield a sword.
Yeah.
And they're just making this. They start joking in like this dark humor way of like how ridiculous that is. And anyway, that's where my brain goes. But I was looking at this, and you can kind of just imagine like this 21-year-old child who has no fighting experience really at all, right? It's not like Hadrian. Hadrian was drilled from a very young age by like one of the best duelists. And we'll get into that more a little bit later, but like not this kid, right? We see that because he duels with Hadrian, and they're terrible. And so you could just imagine this amazing ceremonial sword by the Grand Prior. She's like, hell no.
Yeah,
like this
we're
is
gonna do this right.
not happening.
Yeah, but he does get to hold the head at least.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. There's a part of me that was like wanting a little more out of it, but I think conversely, like it felt very natural, and not everything is always cinematic or anything like that. So it felt real. Like that is exactly how they would handle it. Like this is like this evil creature to them, and they want to behead it for a ceremony. They're going to do that. They're not going to be like, any last words? And he does this like huge monologue or anything. Like it makes sense. Like it works. But I'm just cursed to where if there's a character, I'm like, wow, interesting character. I can't wait to see more. And then they're gone forever. So
I think that we'll see a lot more of the
Cielsen.
Of the Cielsen and of the Grand Prior.
So. Oh yeah. I thought you were gonna say Maki-sama. I was like, I don't
know.
know.
We don't see very much of Maki-sama anymore. But what I did find interesting was they mentioned how they like, what is it? Did they stitch his eyes closed, or did they staple his eyes? What was it with the eyes that they did? Do you guys remember reading that? Yeah, they did something to his eyes whenever they were describing whenever he was out there.
For some reason, I thought I remember like his eyes just weren't used to the sun. Right. And so he was like he couldn't keep his eyes open because the sun was just so bright. But
I'm gonna have to go back and see what that was. Yeah, but they did something to his eyes that in my mental picture that I was building, it was just like, wow, that's a weird way of doing something. But
interesting. Yeah.
I was just seeing if there was any significance behind it. You guys thought?
Yeah, I unfortunately don't remember. So yeah, just quick and towards the beginning of the part, but uh,
Hmm.
as far as other things, so that's kind of like where we kick it off. We also meet Valka, but really, I think the strength of this whole part for me was uh, Christopher Ruoccio's like ability to show like alien races, like when they go to the Umand, like I mean, basically a work camp. Um, that part was just super interesting, and just the building of like their writings and almost like a Rosetta Stone kind of thing, their markings and all of their history, and I don't know, something, it just was so intriguing to me. And then when we wrap that all up with Kalaga and the Quiet, it just was like, to me, that was the real star of this part. Which, to get there, we probably do need to talk about Valka, which I found hilarious when he first introduces her. Like, he meets her very offhandedly, and then he butts in as the narrator, and he's like, "Oh, Valka, for her I had to wait, so you too will have to wait." And I was like, "Oh, okay, so a character we're not going to see for a while." And like the next page, it's just like Valka. I was like, well, "We didn't have to wait for very long. Like, wait for what? Like, she's like becomes our main
No.
character
We're still
immediately."
waiting. We're still waiting, Matt.
He's Edge of
Yeah.
forever, man.
Yeah, that it is. I mean, he even just like as the narrator is like, if I had known at the time, I would have slapped myself silly, right? For
Yeah.
I would have strangled myself.
for introducing myself
Yeah.
that way,
Which,
or for talking to her that way.
yeah, I do appreciate, like, it's, I don't know, I do, this is my biggest criticism of this part so far, is like, I get that you're love struck and blinded by this, desire, and I can mostly get on board, and you're even calling yourself out as a narrator in the future. I like it, but like, I just don't know if I ever bought into Hadrian, who has sacrificed so much already, to just throw that all away so quickly. For that, I just it's like, it's believable kind of for the most part, but it did frustrate me. It's like, bro, think about like your mom and like everyone you've like, Cat, like I don't know, it just feels like in this moment you're like, this is what you're gonna throw it away for. Like, as much as you call yourself out, like, would Hadrian really have done that? I don't know if I'm convinced that his character up to this point would have, but I do think it was necessary for sure, just to have that incident. So I don't know. That was my least favorite part about this part. I love Valka. I gotta say, like I said, I love Valka. I think she's a very, very strong character. But and like, I get why Hadrian would, crush on her. Like, I believe in the crush. I just don't know if he would throw away everything for that.
I don't think that he it wasn't very much of a thought process for him. I mean, this is coming right after an alien attack. His very first, like, creatures that he was studying, that he was, admiring, uh, uh, literally for the very first time, even the handlers was just like, this hasn't happened like this before. Just raged on, at once on the time. So, and he was caught in the middle of it,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to bite down a tentacle of an alien himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, all these things put together, your adrenaline's pumping. You're not thinking, like, you are reacting at that point, and I can totally see him just being a young hot-blooded kid, just like what he said. He's
Yeah.
just a young hot-blooded kid that just couldn't
Got it
couldn't
bad.
take somebody bad mouthing his crush.
Yeah.
So I totally see it happening. For you know you get, as when you're listening to the narrator, you get, these advanced thoughts of somebody that's older, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what's actually happening in the moment is of, somebody who isn't as experienced as the main narrator is. So.
Yeah. I think that goes a long way too. I think if you take out that narrator saying like, "Yeah, I was an idiot," then I really wouldn't like it. I think that's what really makes it at least like, all right. He's even looking back on his own self and being like, "What an idiot!" Like, come on, bro. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. But what do you guys think? I guess, I mean, I don't know. I like their relationship, and I don't. It was frustrating to me, but I think believable. So what? Yeah. Do you like Valka? She's really I would say, seemingly our strongest supporting character up to this point. Just like page time at least.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I've really enjoyed her character, and I think that she is. I mean, it seems like she's being set up as a strong side character that we're going to consistently see through the series.
I didn't want to
or
say
at
it.
least this book. I
Otherwise
certainly
she won't.
hope so. But now that they said it, it can't happen.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. But I certainly hope that that's consistently the case. I could see really her and Hadrian being a very powerful duo, and it could. I mean, it seems like it's definitely going to be a vehicle to help us learn more. There are certain things I don't know that I agree with in terms of how her character is portrayed, specifically with respect to her relationship to the Palatine and the Nobile, and how she just sort of swipes away the Chantry, right? Like just sort of dismisses that as a force. And so I feel like, especially because she is meant to be positioned as someone of considerable experience, which I'm surprised she didn't bring up, because that's perhaps another controversial relationship there for you, Matt. She's like 100 years older than Hadrian.
I know he couldn't have him young, so he wants him old
No,
now.
no. Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, all right, bro.
So
Like,
we're-
how about
we're
you
all
just
over
stick
the
with
place.
Anais, like someone like maybe your age.
I was thinking about that. We're just like, our love interests so far are like a power dynamic that's really inappropriate. A 16-year-old girl, a woman who is like well over 100 years older, and then now betrothed to someone who's like 19.
Oh yeah, I guess
so,
Anais is young, isn't she? For some reason, I keep thinking they're
She's
like the
19.
same age.
The most real
he's
was
5
Kat.
years older.
Cat was the
Yeah,
most,
most real was Kat, though.
but yeah,
That's the most relatable. You just like you're going through. People that you go through like extreme struggles with, and when you're talking about what Hadrian went through,
yeah. I'm curious to see. So we had a big talk about Kat. I didn't particularly like that he was like courting her when she was like 16. To me, I just felt like there wasn't really any reason to not just age her up. Like the story wouldn't suffer any at all for that. So I didn't really like that. Especially, just felt like a weird age gap. But next thing we know, he's gonna be going for Legia. He's like, I want the granny now. Give me the granny.
Yeah, from what I understand, it was like it was 3 years in the streets though, right? So
Yeah,
he met Kat.
She's
They
like
met
of
about
age
18,
when they
19.
actually start.
he's 21,
Right.
or no, he's 19 or 20. I think he's 19. She's 16, and then he's 22 when she passes, and she's 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
we skipped the
So
point.
it really isn't that bad. Like, but I understand what you're saying. Like the group, but it's not really group. He's not in a position to
Yeah,
real
it's like
groom
it's
it.
like a gray area grooming.
Yeah.
And to me, I think at that point it was just like literally nothing about the story changes if you just make her the same age as Hadrian. Nothing.
Sure.
Except for it just probably makes it a lot less gray. Anyways,
Sure.
I'm sure there's gonna be. I'm expecting a lot more Hadrian relationships as we go through this series, and
Lots of
I'm hopeful that
relationships, no actual fruit.
Yeah. I'm hopeful this one is just like we get to the point one way or the other. I don't want this like book 6, will they, won't they kind of thing. Like, I hope they either just do it and it works, or they do it and it doesn't work, or what they just decide they're not doing it. Like,
I love how we went from I don't even expect her to last like 2 more chapters to like book 6 when they're still together. I want a decision
because this will be the one time. This will be the one time a character makes it. It's the character.
Which one?
The one with the
Okay.
frustrating sexual
Valka?
chemistry.
No way. Oh, dude, there's no way.
You don't think she's making it?
No way. No way.
It's
Mainly because
it's setting up as like a witch burned at the stake kind of situation.
well, he already said that they called her the witch that charmed him or whatever at the time, and it just really felt like in that scenario when he was narrating like from the future about their relationship that he was more remembering her rather than like this is how she started, like and stuff
It definitely,
like that.
yeah.
important
It seems. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
say it's important to highlight that there's no way she could be alive. I mean, there is a way, but like she would have had to be frozen. But she can't live as long as Hadrian. We got a huge lore drop about Hadrian's narrator in this one, which is that he's over 1,500 years old, which is extraordinarily long. It's twice as long as anyone would have expected
those good
of a
genes.
Palatine. He's got those good genes. He got some really good genes. Like that's like beyond denim. Okay.
I
But yeah,
find
like that's yeah, it's crazy.
it is crazy. It's an interesting method of like storytelling because it does set us up in the beginning of like, I mean, he's like alone, jailed. So it's like anyone we meet along the way, probably not going to make it. At least like with Hadrian to the end. So just put like a time, a clock on everybody we meet. But I would like to see more Valka than just the end of this book. Personally, I really like her as a character. I just hope we can just enjoy her as a character and not as a romantic partner. For me, I just think she's smart. She's part of. So I think that's the other interesting part. We really set up the Demarchy, which is like a pretty conflicting faction with the Chantry. They're all about science and tech. They push back on the church. So I find it interesting that they won't even allow her there. That they allow her to study something that is arguably going to, and we find out does discount the entire religion. So that's another thing I found interesting is like how much do they know? Are they keeping track of what she's? This kind of led me to believe the Chantry knows about the quiet. I think they've just been keeping quiet about it, if you will. But yeah, I do find it interesting that they're allowing that because it seems like they kind of rule. So why would they allow someone from the Demarchy to come to their planet to study ruins from an ancient civilization? I don't get it, but it's interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it's not meant to be an apparent contradiction. I think that we're meant to understand that there might be something more at play. And that's kind of like where some of that with Valka I thought was really interesting because she's meant to be portrayed as like someone with a lot of experience. But at the same time, her position towards the Chantry, I find to be just kind of strange. Just because I would have imagined, although granted enmeshment would be slightly different, but I would have imagined that someone with her experience and her history would be fairly familiar with the politic of the Soul Empire and the fact that like the Palatine quake in the wake of the Chantry, that they're not to be trifled with, that her people, now granted her people have fought a war and won that war, they have earned their own independence, and they do see themselves and to a certain extent as being sort of superior to the Imperials. But I mean, even so, like that time she seems to understand Hadrian. Other times she tends to tease Hadrian, but overall she just seems like her sort of opinion of the Chantry is like they can't do anything. They're not even going to know about what it is that we're doing, even though it's very likely that they already know. And so, but so I found that a little bit interesting. I would have thought that her character would have been a little bit more, maybe tactical or a little bit more like considerate or cautious with regards to the Chantry. As far as like the apparent contradiction, I think there's still some interesting ways this could go. It could be a situation where they're allowing this to happen because the deeper that she goes or that her people go, then the more that the Chantry can ridicule them for being heretics to essentially instigate another conflict between the two. Sort of spur a global conflict, which could hopefully finally get rid of them.
Now,
So
don't
that
they
could
have
be one possible option.
Don't they have nukes? Basically, isn't that they're kind of like protection? They're like, yeah, well, we'll just. Isn't that something she talks about? Like they have like nuclear weapons if they need.
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
every-
they're just
every-
as strong.
Yeah.
That's kind of why the
I
Chantry
think
leaves them be
every
at this point.
civilization kind of has these nukes or whatever. So
Yeah.
They're a formidable force. I mean, they're definitely like on par with the Chantry, at least as we're meant to understand. But it kind of is also one of those things too of like, even if they have pretty significant weaponry, I mean, what does that mean? Because if they're not as expansive as the Empire, for example, then the Chantry might be willing to lose a few planets to get rid of them, right?
Yeah.
If they're uncovering things that are contradictory. It could also be a situation too where the Chantry knows that they can benefit from these discoveries, and so they're just biding their time to let her basically do the legwork for them to swoop in later. Because just because they find it heretical or blasphemous doesn't mean that they wouldn't take advantage of what they learned from that, right?
Sure. Well, I think
Yeah.
what makes it even more interesting is that this whole expedition is funded by House Viessa or whatever, who directly works for Batara. So Sir Lomas or whatever, he's the one funding
Yeah.
this
Yep.
expedition, but he's part of the house that works for a house that works for the Chantry. So why are they funding it? So yeah, it does seem like there's more than we know, maybe behind the scenes, and we'll talk about a little. We talk about more. That's part of my prediction of just sorry Lomas, but yeah, I think as far as Valka goes, because she's been here before. Because she even tells Hadrian at some point, like, oh, yeah, I've been in this room before and talked about this. And maybe that time she was more cautious. But she was like, yeah, I know for a fact that I can talk about it. So
That's so weird to me.
It is weird. So she either knows something more than we don't.
Yep.
But there is like a weird confidence that she has in talking freely about that. Hadrian's constantly thinking like,
yeah,
we're in the
Hadrian
palace.
feels it, man.
Yeah.
I honestly think that Hadrian knows in this point that she is naive. Like I really do think that either you're right that she knows something that we don't know, but the Chantry shouldn't allow her to live.
Yeah, which I think kind of speaks to Ian's point of like maybe they are allowing her to put in the legwork. When she gets the discovery, they can, take her out. Now they've got the information that they need to either protect or manipulate to their advantage, and they take out Valka.
Because so far she's not discovered anything that cannot be explained away. Like she talks about this with a high degree of confidence, and I think we're meant to understand that this is very likely to be true, and certainly Hadrian feels that. But other than the narrator giving some perspective here, at that time, there is no actual reasonable evidence to show that this civilization exists. All she has is obsidian structures. Like that's effectively it. And all of the tests that she's run, I mean, none of that would be, I mean, Chantry could just easily say it's just propaganda.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But I think she's run the test to like prove that it's not the Umand,
Yep.
and that it predates them. So I think there's like there is like factual evidence that there was some kind of beings there before, but there's not enough. Yeah, there's
Right,
no concrete
but
proof.
if that factual evidence was gathered using technology that the Chantry highly regulates, then largely the Empire would just dismiss it as being like again propaganda.
It's an AI
and
video.
things like that. Yeah, exactly. It's a deep fake. That's what it is, right? From these like cyborg people that are, melding their bodies with forbidden technology, right? It just seems like it'd be really easy for them. And she even says as much, like, it's made it easy for, it obviously makes it easier for the Chantry, right? Because they can just dismiss all of it with the wave of their hand.
And there's no language or anything like that was left behind by them. There's no graves, there's no language, there's nothing. That's why they call them the Quiet, right? So, like, as far as we know,
yeah, they're just kind of poof.
Yeah, there's just those Umand rings, right? Like that we still don't know exactly about. What are they? I forget what Hadrian says that they're like.
Yeah, which is they're kind of. I think that at some point they're talking about like a Rosetta Stone.
Well, he was talking about them as being similar to the Cielcians language.
Well, I forget what he called them though. They're like records. It's another word for records. It's like analgam or not analgam, but I forget what it is.
There's like a concept like an anagram, but I don't think
anagram.
Yeah. But basically one of the things he refers to is that there's a like a linguistic tool that he learned when he was learning Cielcen. And there's a lot of different like linguistic tools that we use to help teach children different languages. Like for anybody who's ever learned a language with like emphasis marks, where like certain languages, the vowel sound might change based off of that particular word. So when you're writing the word, they'll have you write like emphasis marks to so you can remind yourself like which vowel it has. But if you're ever like writing like nobody who actually speaks that natively would ever write those because it's just for children to learn. And so like Gibson taught him how to like box, so do these like boxes around what he was writing in order for him to understand like the fact that geometry played a role in the linguistic interpretation of the written word with Silson, which was like, by the way, linguistically, that's a really interesting concept that like in order to get the written word to mean a certain thing, that there's a like a multi-dimensional structure to it. Like that was a kind of an interesting concept of like the fact that something's like on a separate line and moved over changes how the previous sentence is interpreted. But like they do these like geometric boxes, and he was like, "Oh well, the Muon rings look like this. They look like boxed, this like boxed language," which was kind of interesting idea.
You could tell that kind of like stuff interests Christopher Ruocchio in real life.
Yeah,
because he handles it really well. I think it's like it really he paints it in like a true discovery format to where like I felt like I was discovering it along with Hadrian, like first going to the camp with the Umand, then going into the hut, and then her showing him like the slideshow, and it's like I kept getting a little piece every time he got a little piece, and it was like cool when that reveal came. It was like a cool little aha moment for me as well, even though it's like he tells me, but I'm like, wow, that is cool, and I didn't really see that coming personally.
He kind of figures things out really fast in the book. There's no lead up to it. It's just like, oh, that's this, and then she's like, yeah, you got it right. Like,
good job, but I don't like you yet.
He figures it out really fast. Yeah. But before we get off of too far away from the Demarchy, I wanted to get you guys' thoughts about the Judeans, because we did get a little lore dump for the Judeans. They're one of the last off the Earth, the last tribes off the Earth, and how they fought against the Empire, and they're well known for their, I guess supremacy in dueling and stuff like that. So what did you guys think about the Judean lore dump?
Well, just so I don't get my different tribes mixed up. So are the Judeans the one that are almost like super soldiers? Is that right? And
yes.
then the Tabrosi are like they're also opposed, but they're more their power comes from their economic ties as well. The fact that every member is considered a diplomatic representative of the entire faction because everybody has a unique share in the sort of economic prosperity. So effectively everyone's like landed, so they're all sort of considered Palatine in a way. The Judeans being like sort of the super soldiers. It reminded me a lot almost of like sort of like in a Sun Eater version of like Space Marines from Warhammer 40k, where they're just like these like genetically modified badasses that are another kind of boogeyman right in the universe, which is very neat. And now it just feels like, well, at some point we're gonna fight one, right? Like that's what
we're gonna see him. yeah.
I think that's kind of where I was at as far as like, I don't know if I necessarily had any thoughts yet. I think it was just more of like, I'm excited to see more. And I think once we start seeing more, that lore will become a little more relevant. But I'm trying to remember now. Do you guys remember the people that escorted him off of Delos? That crew. What were they?
They had a Judean, I'm pretty sure.
Did
they have a Judean?
I thought they did.
I thought that he spoke. I'm pretty sure he spoke Judean, but I could be wrong.
Oh, I don't remember. Well, did they have a Judean? Maybe somebody who like fought with them. I don't know
like
if it
captain,
was actually
maybe
Judean.
The guy that was not the captain, but the pilot, maybe. Or they were.
I thought who it was. Yeah.
I couldn't remember exactly, but I think at the very least they were talking about them. So I couldn't remember if the whole crew was or wasn't, or I think some of those factions are kind of getting lost on me just because they are very quick little...
Juno, the captain is, he is.
Oh, you're talking about no. He wasn't the captain. He was just the pilot, I thought. Like the big guy?
Yeah, he's both. Yeah, he runs the ship.
No, there was a separate pilot, like at the controls.
No,
because there was a guy and his wife.
Sorry, you're right.
The captain should be
Um,
the other guy. I
It
forget
was
his
like
name.
Damien or something.
Yeah, it's like I forget.
Because it was him and his wife
it's-
Juno. There was like the
Right.
yeah.
pilot.
Dimitri is the
Dimitri.
Jedian. He yeah.
Oh well, he
Yeah,
was
And so
he was the
Juno,
captain. Dimitri.
he was the captain. Yeah, Dimitri's the
Yeah.
captain. He's the Jedian, and then Juno is his wife, who I'm pretty sure is also one, maybe not, but definitely Dimitri.
Okay, so the actual pilot,
yeah.
I'm sorry, the captain,
The
The
one
actual
that he
captain.
crashes
captain.
with.
Okay, the captain
Yeah.
was the Jedian. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay, that's why. Yeah, I
Wow.
thought I remembered them being mentioned earlier. But it makes it even more interesting knowing that. Yeah, I think I kind of just missed the whole like super soldier dump.
yeah. Well, because at that point, the only thing we really get is the fact that this is the first person that's like bigger than Hadrian. Like he does bring up the
Yeah.
fact that he's kind of small for a Palatine, but Palatines are bigger than other people. They're meant to like lord
Right.
over others, so they're genetically modified to be taller. And so, but like the Jadians are like even bigger than them, right? And so, it's pretty
Like
cool.
that was like a common Judian rather than like a Palatine or even a soldier Judian. I
Yeah,
bet
yeah.
you because the soldiers are kind of like on par because they have to defend and stuff. But they're more of like the bone cutter type
Yep.
of people
Now,
rather than like the Palatine.
Are the Jedians under the Chantry, or are they also separate?
Well, now they're under the Empire now because they lost the fight.
That makes
But,
sense because I was wondering, like, well, then why are they working with? Because they got hired from the lady that was working for the Wong Hopper Consortium.
Right, it was
the
like
one-
over like 10,000 years ago or something like that. I think it was, or
okay,
something
so
like
it's part
that.
of
Yeah.
their history. Oh yeah, when
Yeah,
they
it's
were,
part of their
when they were
history,
leaving
but
Earth.
And they were and they were like, it's weird because they are so well respected, and you can see like a lot of the planets under the Empire like they teach Judian. They you know they it's a common language to learn. So they're clearly like well respected, which is weird because they're the last ones to rebel or against the Empire. So
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
pretty sure that they do have their independence. I'm pretty sure both the Jadians and the Tavrosi, I think they're the only two factions that we're aware of that actually do have their independence. They don't. Some of them may serve at the behest, but I don't believe that they are considered technically under the thumb of the Chantry. But as far as I
Really?
know, they're the only two factions where that's true.
So then, what is the demarchy like relative to those
That's the same.
two? So
That's the
both of the just the
No,
Tavrosi.
Tavrosi is the same as the Demarchy.
Yep.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
So just the
and
one
so,
faction under them.
but their reasons for being separate are different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I think that part excites me to see. Yeah, once I think obviously we'll get a little bit more of that as we get off of Medua or Emesh or whatever, and kind of get out into the universe a little bit more. And I think he's handling it in a pretty good way of like drops of like, we're getting a little bit here, a little bit there of like for some intrigue, and then when we meet them, it'll be fun to actually like deep dive them a little bit more.
I'm curious to see how much of that 1,500 years or whatever it is that Hadrian dropped on us. How much of that was actually like spent living, and how much of that was like in fugue, maybe. Like
That's true.
we already know he survived it once. Who's to say that he spends another 500 years in fugue state? Maybe he's like on the same par, because to make that much of a jump from like 800, you're basically doubling your lifespan, because it was like 800 was his grandmother or something like that. I forget what it was.
682 is his grandma, but presumably a Palatine can live like someone who is connected to the Emperor can live for quite a long time. And that's the other thing is like we haven't really gotten some perspective on how long the Emperor can live, because I don't know if it had been dropped before this particular series, but for this set of chapters, but there was a point where they said that is heresy for all but the earth. There are no other gods but the earth and her son, our emperor.
Right. Yeah, that was within these chapters.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that had been mentioned before, that they view him as the sort of living divine being.
The old
And so
Jesus
presumably
figure.
Yeah. So either presumably he can live a very, very, very long time, or there's something else going on, like maybe something like what we saw in like, or if you ever see like the show The Foundation, or things like that, where there's maybe some kind of like cloning process or something like that to keep the emperor perpetually alive. We don't know, but presumably people who are more closely connected to the emperor live longer. And I mean, if Hadrian's grandmother is 682, like she's still going, and that's not her. That's not the years since she was born. That's the years she's been alive. That doesn't count her fugue
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
And that's still 3 times longer than like the current nobile on Imesh is expected to
Mesh.
live.
Yeah, I think Batara was like what 125
He's
or
like 100.
something.
He's like, yeah, and he's like 100 and 25, 133 or something like that, and he doesn't expect to live that much longer.
Yeah, which I thought was a cool reveal too. Just even that there
I
can
thought
be
it was
such
too.
discrepancies in,
Yeah.
in age and like that. Yeah, his whole plan like coming to fruition was not what I expected, because I did find myself, so when Bree and I were reading this part, I was like, I need to go back and reread the chapter where they capture him and they like make a deal, because I was like, so what's the benefit here? And really he just says like, oh well, if the Chantry do find out, then I can just say, oh, I was just keeping them safe until you came here, and like that was it. I was like, that's really like always kind of holding over him, and it felt pretty weak. So this made that a lot better. So yeah, I guess we'll go back and talk about some other stuff as well, but this was that's kind of like the setup for the next part, was that Batara reveals that he knew who Hadrian was, which we kind of knew that. So he knew, not only did he know who Hadrian was, he got permission from his father that basically he was disowned as a Marlowe, and now he can then marry off Hadrian to his daughter or son, Hadrian's choice if he has a preference. And so he could then acquire the genes can become part of his family line, which I thought was interesting. Makes sense because Anais knew the whole time. We find out, which makes a lot of sense for the things that she's done. She's constantly jealous of Valka. She's showing him cleavage, like doing a lot of stuff to be like, hey, hello, like here I am, I like you, kind of thing.
Yeah. My wife was listening as I was going through that part, and that was just when he finds out that he's supposed to be betrothed to Anais. The way that Anais is described is just it's just so strange and funny at the same time. See, he just like the image. He says the image of Gillian Voss's dead eyes, the image of Valka and whatever, will fade away to be replaced by a slender, full-breasted.
Oh yeah, it says
as
full
beautiful as a beautifully sculpted ice sculpture that's as dull as a puddle. Like this shit.
Yeah, or yeah.
Which like,
or that says
I like it on paper, except for the like again, it's just like, do we need, as beautiful as an ice sculpture, that paints the picture. We don't need the full-breasted part.
Yeah, that was the part.
It.
I was like, as beautiful as an ice sculpture, as dull as a puddle. We got it.
And also with huge tits. Don't forget the tits.
You cannot forget
Massive.
the huge tracts of land. Okay.
Yeah, 19-year-old Christopher Ruocchio was like, this sentence really works, but something's missing here.
you gotta say it.
Yeah.
You gotta say it.
I found that pretty funny, but I think the most unrealistic part of this part for me was that after this whole thing, he's revealed who he is to the everybody. Hadrian has. He's dueled and killed Gilliam for Valka. He's then revealed to be married off to the children, and he's like, well, I can't marry you now. You're on the bad side of the Chantry. All that makes sense. I'm going to send you away for a little bit. And Hadrian's like, can you send me with Valka? And he's like, you know what? Sure. It's like, what would he send him with Valka, the woman that he's so in love with that he's outing himself for? Or would he just send Hadrian to one of the moons like he says he would? Like, what good is going to come from sending Hadrian with that, other than like maybe keeping him in his good graces so he will happily marry his daughter or son? But like, I don't know. I just found like, what? He's just letting him go with Valka Like, come on.
I guess I didn't find that super. I didn't really find that unbelievable because it felt because like Valka has had a good relationship with the Nobile for quite some time. And like we even see an element of that, right? When Hadrian asked to like go with her, she's like, "But you're betrothed, like you can't leave."
Even
Like
she has a stronger reaction than
yeah,
the father.
yeah. And then when he's like, "No, like it's okay," she's like, "But you have to come back." Like I think she understands the situation. So I guess I didn't really find that weird. I would find it weirder if it was if the culture had stronger emphasis on marriage and like monogamy or things like that. But this is a culture where marriage is strictly just a contract to access one's genes. That's like
Sure.
all it effectively is because like their children will not be naturally produced. They are both legally allowed to have harems and in fact are going to be encouraged to both have their own harems. Like they
Right.
will make frequent uses if they're traditional no palantines. They'll make frequent uses of like what we're called now pleasure workers.
Yeah.
Um,
And all that makes
so
sense,
it's like,
but like,
yeah,
and yeah, like I get all of that, and right, that all makes sense to me. But he's letting him go with the one woman who put his plans back by, he says, like up to 3 years, because of this specific woman. And so then he says, "All right, you can go with her." I think that's the part. It's like if it weren't for her, this plan wouldn't be as disrupted. It's not the fact that he's
well,
with someone else and sleeping with someone else. It's the fact that he's willing to act on that against. He's willing to let that cause problems, and it has already caused problems. And so he's just, and then it's not rewarding it, but it is borderline like rewarding that. It felt like
I don't know because like she's not the problem. Like Hadrian is causing the problem.
but you take Valka out of that equation and the problem goes away. And I'm not saying it's Valka's fault, but if you take Valka out, he's not able to act on it because she's not there.
Yeah, that's true. But honestly, I also just don't know that we can really say Hadrian wouldn't have had a confrontation with Gilliam with
That's
Gilliam
true.
Voss.
Tensions were
Because like
building either way.
yeah, because I mean I think the situation led to obviously Hadrian acting out and sort of on behalf of because the stories of old, right? There's sort of chivalry that's the sort of chivalry that he practices, so to speak. But I mean, I think that there is an element to where he still like that Hadrian at that moment isn't just slapping Gilliam Voss, like he's smacking him, right? Because Gilliam Voss called Valka a whore. Like part of it is also the fact that there's like this need for justice that he's taking out on Gilliam Voss, who, he even tries to justify it. Like a man like that could have done whatever he wanted to anybody who wasn't Palatine. I had to stop him, right?
Yeah.
He's like coming up with these excuses. But there's this childlike sense of like someone needs to enforce justice.
Yeah.
So I think that there is something there that's really dangerous about. I mean, I personally felt like that scene where they fight is kind of one of the first times that we see that there's something truly dangerous in Hadrian, that like he has in himself the capacity to do atrocities. Not just like, oh, I fought one bad guy in a sort of gray area, morally speaking, conflict, but it's like no, like he has in himself the audacity to pursue a personal sense of justice to the like even to the extent of like killing others.
I think to a degree though, right? Because I think, well, first I do want to say earlier I said Valka, it's not Valka's fault. She was egging him on too, though. I gotta say, she's definitely playing into it. She knows what's going on with Hadrian, and she's definitely letting it happen. Kind of like, oh no, this can't happen. Don't, not me. It can't. She's definitely. I think she's playing into it. So I think she's not equally at fault, but I don't think she's completely oblivious to the fact that Hadrian wants it bad.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it's both. I think it's both, and we see that especially at the dinner party, right? Because he's doing all this stuff, like he's being what Ian was saying. Basically, he has the audacity to confront the Chantry. Not like and basically at this point, the Grand Prior is the face of the Chantry on this planet, right?
Mhm.
So he's saying this in the face just to elicit a smile on Valka's in Valka's eyes or whatever.
Yep.
So like I can totally see both points here. Like yes, you see this is like first time that you see like Hadrian being this audacious, right? But and also, it is Valka's fault. So
It's both. I think she
Yeah,
probably has the maturity not to act on it if it means disrupting what her plans are. Like I don't think she would ever have chosen Hadrian over Kalaga or something like that. Where I think Hadrian at this point in his life is young and naive, and I think he would, he does, choose Valka over his future. But I think you're right. It's not just because of her. She's like the straw that broke. Gilliam saying that about her is the straw that broke the camel's back. But as far as Gilliam, like, it's an interesting duel because definitely another weakness of Hadrian. He's cocky as hell, and I think he goes into this fight like he does not want to kill Gilliam. He does not want to, and it's not like he's like, oh hell yeah, like bloodthirsty or anything. He like immediately regrets it, and partly because of Valka, but I think also because of him. I think there is a part of him that does not want to kill Gilliam. He overreacted. I think in that moment, he knows he's cooled down. He's separated from that moment, and so he's like, all right, I'll just draw first blood, and then I'll end it. Except for that cockiness gets him because he does not draw first blood. And then, I think at that point it becomes, what choice does Hadrian have other than to kill him? So to me, it's not. It's still a pivotal moment for him because it is his first kill, or I don't. It's not even like I don't even know what you would call it. It's not murder, but just like first execution or what have you.
First time he's ever taken life.
First time he's ever taken a life, and it is a pivotal moment. I think a lot of the future will come back to that moment.
That he knows of. He did stab that one innocent shopkeeper,
the bread keeper.
Yeah, he did. But he doesn't know what happened to him afterwards.
That's true.
He could have killed.
He could have.
But yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like as far as duels go, it was quick, concise, but impactful for me. I thought it was a really good duel. I mean, I think he's not going to get first blood. Of course he's not, because he's just so cocky about it. And I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect that he doesn't. He gets humbled pretty quickly, and not only humbled in that regard, but just humbled as a fighter. Of like, oh, I'm actually, this is what happens when you underestimate somebody. Yeah, he's rusty. He thinks just because, and he keeps talking about like how looks, he keeps mentioning he shouldn't underestimate him. I mean, he does. He still does. He still underestimates Gilliam because he's an intus and he's a cripple basically, and he gets humbled pretty quickly, and then he has to pay for that mistake in like arguably the worst way possible for him. It's a big turning point, I think, for his character. So I thought all that was handled super great. Really loved the duel and what it means, especially because Gilliam's ending just works so well for me. He knows something that we don't, and there's a very good chance we're going to find out what that is later on in the series, but will we know that that's the thing that he knows, or that's just something else we find out that Gilliam just happened to know, and Christopher knows that Gilliam knew it, but we might not. I think that this is just like a fun thing to play with.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the most complex character being his mother, the Grand Prior. So there's definitely something that we're not seeing.
I'm scared of her going forward. I think I think she's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
But so another interesting part that is very briefly touched on. What did you guys think of Bassander Lim?
Oh,
do you remember Bassander Lim?
The traitor. The traitor is what the narrator called him in the future, right? So it is very interesting because we don't see that much of Lim. Lim is just this wily-eyed lictor person, right? So we don't see very much of her or him. Is it a her? Is it a her?
I think it's a him. I think it's a him.
Okay, I wasn't sure. But yeah, we don't see that much of him. But kind of like off in the shadows always. So
Yeah, it's just a nice setup. Like, yeah, and like it's a name too that he might not show, and he tells us he's not going to show up again for a bit. And when he does, at first it's going to be good. It's going to be friendly. They're going to work together, kind of thing. And then he betrays them. And so, like, you're setting up this betrayal. Not only are you setting up a betrayal, it's someone we know the name of, which makes sense because Hadrian is telling us. But like, it is going to be. I've never really experienced a plot like heist movies. There's always like a traitor. It's like if the heist movie told us up front, this is the traitor. Now watch the movie. It'll be really interesting to see how that plays out for me because normally a traitor is a big reveal, but I also think it's ballsy to say this guy. What scares me the most is he's going to make me like him a lot. He's going to be this great character, and then I'm not going to want him to betray him. You're just waiting. You don't know when it's going to happen. So I think it creates a lot of good suspense too. So I appreciate it's just he's not doing the same things that most authors would do there, and I find that pretty interesting.
I think specifically it's going to have to do with the Matteo, like the main guy that's ruling there. I don't know how to say his name, or else I would.
Bataro.
But yeah, Bataro, Baleria, whatever it is. Yeah.
It was Bailey and Mataro.
Balian and Matara. Yeah.
Balian, yeah. So yeah, I think it has to do with him. I think definitely maybe the Chantry or maybe something is gonna happen with him, but I think that's who he's going to betray rather than Hadrian himself.
Dinner. Just the fact that he's at that dinner means he is in good graces with them. Either the Chantry or Balium. So I thought that was cool. Very just drop it in there right in the middle. So that one made sense. That one he was like, yeah, you're gonna have to wait for this one. I was like, cool, but are we, or is this gonna be another Valka where the very next chapter we get more of her? I just found that so funny.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Are there any other kind of main plots that you guys want to talk about before we kind of go into our likes and dislikes and predictions? Any other moments that spoke to you? There was the big Umand attack. We didn't really talk about the Umand and like the their like camp and the guy that runs it, the piece of shit. What's his name? I wrote it down.
Well, he dies so quickly. Like his character was
Villicus. Villicus Engine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's the one that died in the attack itself.
Yeah.
So we don't really get to see too much of him.
Yeah. I liked the travel to their camp though, and like you see them. Yeah, he's just like he's such a piece of shit. He does the thing where like he puts on the airs when they're there, and he's like feeding them, but like Hadrian sees like the marks where he's clearly like he does something. It's basically like torture. I can't remember exactly what he does.
Well, I think he's the same character. Didn't at one point Valka say that what he does, because he's not supposed to like whip them in public, is he has them like chiseled?
Yes, yeah, exactly. He has them, like chiseled, and Hadrian could tell that by like the way they're marked or something like that.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. They're just like I don't. It's interesting. He just does a good job of creating like I can't wait to see more alien races because I think we're gonna get more. And like this one's already been pretty memorable for them being so just I don't know. They're not very intelligent, but they're still like a memorable race.
I think I like the comparison the book makes. A little, they compare a little bit to like ants, like kind of like a colony, like hive mind kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, with their singing and stuff like that. So,
but they're smart enough to rebel, right? They rebel specifically when Balian is there visiting.
Right.
So I thought that I like to see them rebel, and Engine gets his comeuppance, which was great. And yeah, Hadrian. It sucks. Hadrian has to like they're not smart enough to. I mean, they couldn't know that Hadrian isn't one of the bad guys or whatever to them. It's understandable why they attack Hadrian and Valka as well. They're with them. They're with Balian. But he does have to defend, and he like bites off like. So we find out they're tongues. They're not like feelers.
They're not tentacles. They're tongues.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so he gets a little ink in his mouth, which
Mm-hmm.
is pretty cool. But yeah, I thought it was a good little fight. I appreciate it not overstaying its welcome. It's one thing I'm always weary about is giant battles that I'm
Lengthy.
like, all right, move along.
Yep. Yeah.
But other than that, do we want to briefly talk before, if again, real quick, do either of you have any other
Well,
parts
the
you want
other
to
thing
talk
I was going
about?
to bring up was the fact that, as far as the quiet goes, because we mentioned, but we didn't really talk too much about what we do know so
Yeah,
far,
let's do it.
which is just namely that we know from Valka that she's been actually tracking these individuals, this particular species, colony, culture, all across the galaxy. And she's been to at least 4 locations, but we presume several more, where there are various xenobites that, or in some cases not, but a lot of them have human civilization, or I should say, sort of Solarian civilizations that are currently present, at least in most of these cases. And so she has permission to basically visit there and study these. And in all cases, these are a type of material that appears similar to obsidian, but can't be like carbon dated. It can't, at least in terms of a mesh, can't be hydrodated. So they can't use a lot of their normal techniques to try to approximate the age. But just based on the collection of evidence that she's gathered from different sites, that they appear to be what she believes like 700,000 years old, which is 3 times as long as not the Solarian Empire, but as humanity.
Yeah.
Like as far as they know as humanity, it's 3 times as old. And then they're referred to as the Quiet because they leave no traces. But there's a couple of other things that are at least kind of worth bringing up that were sort of breadcrumbed throughout this, which is it does appear that pretty much every location is different. For example, one such location was notable for the fact that they had obelisks, whereas in Galaga, they're ruins.
Mm-hmm.
So it does appear that a lot of them are different in terms of the presentation, but it's still giving us a sort of almost religious-like vibe to the way that they're constructed. So there might be something significant about the fact that they are different, and there could be something obviously significant about the fact that they don't appear to be um, cities or infrastructure for cities, that they might actually have like a different significance, because that's why there might not be graves or things like that, right? Although it is sort of worth noting that there are a lot of things that, even though these obsidian structures will not degrade, there are obviously a lot of things that could have already degraded. So like graves could have been completely degraded after 700,000 years, right? So that's worth noting as well. But it does seem like we're sort of having this set up for this sort of ancient race, which is a classic for a lot of science fiction and been popularly used in a lot of things. And so it'd be interesting to see if this is like a race that then disappeared, or if this is a race that became like somebody else, like maybe they became the Solarian Empire,
Or
or something
Seelson.
like that. Yeah, or the Cielson or something like that, right? So it could have become something else in a different state if that there was a break in technology or something like that. Um, but overall, it is a really, really interesting. And Valka, of course, is very motivated to learn more about these particular structures. But the thing that I thought was really fascinating was the fact that 2 of these locations are actually associated with characters that Hadrian has mentioned to us before. And so, like for example, the obelisks were featured in the same place, I believe, that like Simeon the Red visited,
Mm.
or had his conflict. So these like folklore heroes that Hadrian has looked up to from his stories and talked about, actually had like their major events take place on these planets with these ruins. So there is kind of an interesting tie now to that for Hadrian, who of course at the time didn't think anything of it, but now is starting to like wonder why that's the case. Which I'm really interested in that particular detail. Like, these places of notable significance, especially with regards to xenobites, also have these locations. So
I want to know, because yeah, that was really gonna be the last thing I wanted to talk about was just Kalaga itself, where we kind of leave off. It's interesting that they have built these ruins, to me at least, in a place that half of the year or whatever is underwater, and seemingly intentionally. I mean, I guess the tides and things could change throughout all those years and probably have. But seems like that was almost intentional. And so yeah, I think it kind of leads to what you're saying with, or ties into what you're saying as far as like there aren't cities or anything, so they're almost like not vacation spots, but like they just visit. Maybe during those seasonal times they go there, not in season they leave. It's just the mark they leave. But I did find that interesting. For all the places on that planet to place it, they place it somewhere where half the year it's underwater. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I'm just super intrigued by Kalaga.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm ready to learn more about the Quiet, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole like this book specifically, we're gonna get a lot more of it because it's literally called the Empire of Silence, right? And
True.
it's the Quiet. So we're going to get more information about this early conquistadors.
Yeah.
Or if they were conquistadors, maybe they just were the first there to colonize it. I have no idea, but we'll see. I'm excited to learn more about it.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes me most excited about the Quiet is just the threat they pose, that the threat that it poses to the Chantry, because it's just going to create such a conflict for all the religion that is the basis of the Solarian Empire, and if that crumbles, then what do you have? So yeah,
that's where that comment that he waged against Gilliam is so interesting about, again, like people sort of aggressively fighting for what they don't have, and just sort of now you can paint that for the Chantry, right? They keep pushing themselves more aggressively onto the rest of the Empire because of the fact that they don't have the basis for the claims that they're making, right? So they just yell louder. And so I love that as like being now something we can just say of the Chantry, not just of some of these individual people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Okay. Well, let's so we'll do two more things before we wrap it up. We'll go round table and just talk about our likes and dislikes, anything specifically for this part. And then we'll end with any predictions we've got. So does anyone want to kick it off with their likes and dislikes? If you have any. If you don't, then that's totally cool. But if anyone wants to kick it off, I'm happy to do it.
Lois, you want to kick us off? Do you have any?
No, I'll listen and then make some comments at the end. So you guys go first.
Yeah. So, in terms of likes and dislikes, there was a lot that I really did enjoy about this particular chapter, set of chapters. I really like how this is played out. That we're starting to see the larger picture and motivations of our characters. Like I said, I think this particular set of chapters have really made the last set of chapters a lot more interesting, because now we again sort of get this continuum in terms of Hadrian's plans, them being foiled, the Count's plans and things that have happened, and getting some resolution in terms of him being disowned. I think that this is really come together quite well, and I like the fact that we are getting all of these different encounters that are surrounding the overall motivation that Hadrian has to learn more. And it is kind of interesting that we do get to see more of that with Hadrian, which is a continuation of what got him into this in the first place, was that curiosity, that need to know, right? And that's just continuing to get him in further, into it further. He's digging the hole deeper, right? And so I like that we kind of are seeing the old Hadrian come back, and in a way that sort of means that he has to like continue to work on himself even more, because really the Hadrian that he's been working on hasn't really been himself. So I really like those elements of it. Things in terms of what I dislike, same as kind of Matt, just like I do dislike just sort of all of the will they, won't they throughout the chapter. I think that Valka, her presentation, I think there's just some cases where it just felt off for me, because of the fact that she's meant to be from a quite knowledgeable culture, and that she herself has the knowledge and experience to be quite aware of how things are done here. So it'll be interesting to see if we get some more emphasis or more of a highlight on that as well. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. last thing I will say, because we never brought this up, but it does. This kind of keeps happening where because of the fact that things kind of get moved along the way that they are. Like now, the whole thing with like Polino and the ship. I think it was Polino. Now it's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I
she's
don't know.
like,
Maybe we'll come back to it. But now it's just sort of all like off for me. Like why was that there? So but maybe we'll come back to it and it'll make sense. But like right now it does feel very out of place. Whereas bringing Stitch back, that was very neat. Like that was very nice. I really
Stitch.
liked that.
Yeah, closing that was
Switch.
good.
They say Stitch. Switch. Sorry.
Switch.
I like to imagine him as Stitch now.
Yeah. It's Lilo and Stitch, right? Is he not like
yeah.
a six-armed alien? Anyway, but I really liked that. Like he, was like, oh, I have this opportunity because I need a second. I'm gonna go to Switch. I'm gonna repair this relationship. Now that the secrets are out, I can actually like do what I should have done from the beginning, which is just be honest. And I think that is like showing again a sort of growth of his character. But again, still showing that there also needs to be further growth as well. But we do see like a genuine relationship. So I appreciate that element of it. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I agree, especially about the Polino thing. But I felt that about going from part 1 to part 2 as well. We leave a lot behind. That makes a little more sense, right? We're leaving Delos, and it felt like we were starting over again. But like we mentioned it last video, part 2 felt like we were starting a new book. And part 3 basically feels like we're starting a new book again. Like almost everything is new, and then we just sprinkle in like, don't forget Polino, don't forget. I agree. I think there's no way we don't get Polino and Switch, probably some resolution with them by the end of this book. Otherwise, why keep them in it? But it does feel, the parts feel a little, which is crazy because we're making like artificial parts. But they do feel like very separate. As far as pacing goes, it really does feel like he sat down and said, all right, I'm going to write this book in 4 parts. Part 1, this happens. Part 2, this happens. Part 3, this happens. Instead of just like a flow. It doesn't have that flow as much as I would necessarily like. We'll see how he wraps it all up, though. I might change my mind. As far as likes, very quickly, I love the introduction of the Quiet. It just expands what the scope of this story is going to be, especially with the conflict of the Chantry. Dislikes, I put Hadrian. I'm struggling a little bit with Hadrian as the main character. I think he's just getting on my nerves a little bit, which I think is probably the point. Like he is a young, naive kid. He's got a lot to learn. And, the narrator comes in and tells us that, and I think it's obvious too. But he did get on my nerves a little bit, and he's a little like some of the like poetry, the poetic nature of Hadrian. He's just so dramatic. I bookmarked I bookmarked the part where he walks in on Valka and she's like been sleeping with another man.
Oh yeah.
Who's also named Marlowe.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wait, his name's Marlowe.
In the narrator, that's how the narrator pronounces it. And I was like, "There's no way that like his name is supposed to be pronounced
It's Malo. Malo.
Yeah, it's yeah. Okay.
I didn't think about that.
I just think the narrator got it wrong in the audiobook part of it. So I think,
all right. Yeah. This was so he walks in and he hears another man's voice and he goes, "My heart. I cannot tell you what happened to it. It did not sink, but rather left my body entirely and plunged towards the planet's core." Like, okay, buddy. Like, you got like a little crush. I imagine like Hadrian, he's like, I woke up and I stubbed my toe. My heart. It plunged from my body. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's very like Shakespearean and like.
He's supposed to be like that, and the narrator even points it out, and he even says it in like as far as the audiobook part of it, he says it in Gibson's own voice about making fun of him for being so melodramatic the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's why I'm just like ready to move. I get that. I get this part of Hadrian now. I'm excited for it. It seems like we are already moving there. I'm ready for him to get out of this like angsty phase and like be done with the Valka. Will they? Won't they? Let's just move forward one way or another, and see some of that growth, because it's basically been a whole book of that drama, being over dramatic, and I don't know if I want to deal a whole series with him being this dramatic about such little things. So that's my biggest dislike. It's not that big or anything. I don't like hate Hadrian, but I think the best parts of I think if you take out like Valka and you just have Hadrian, I would not be able to handle it. He needs Valka. He needs Cat. He needs those balancing characters. Gibson in the beginning, like I just think so far those are all my favorite parts. Is like the characters are balancing him. But that's really it. I don't. Other than that, I think I liked this part more than part 2, mostly, just because of what this did for the scope of the story. Where 2 didn't really move things along too much. As much as I loved the relationship with Kat, I think this just got me excited for what's to come a little bit more. So, yeah. Anything else you want to add, Los? Or
yeah, sure. So, I liked this part solely for. I do think that this part moves the plot a lot further than part 2 did. The introduction of the Quiet, the reintroduction to the Palatine life, and like his future. But I think I actually liked, like, you're talking specifically about Hadrian. I liked Hadrian being a Myrmidon way more than I like Hadrian being a Palatine. As much as I like the duelist, but I'm just a sucker for those kind of like lowborn, like camaraderie. Yeah, you're trying to keep everybody alive and that you love, that you like, that Hadrian has set himself like his family.
It's like a
that's
family.
that's the first time that he felt like he actually had a family, right? So I enjoyed part 2. I liked reading that and like actually getting him to come into contact with people that care about him and his goals. Yeah. So, but as far as the plot goes, it definitely happened a lot. There's a lot that happened in part 3 that moved it along, specifically the Quiet. And as far as predictions go, I definitely think we're going to learn a lot more about this alien race. Maybe even by the end of the book, we learned what exactly they are, and maybe even like what caused their demise, or if it was a demise, or their it could be hibernation, could be whatever. We don't know yet, and that's definitely one of my major predictions. Second prediction is I'm gonna say this is gonna be it for Valka. Valka's gonna die.
Okay.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna go and predict Valka's gonna die. I know Ian said it before. She can't make it to the end of the series, and I tend to agree with him, and I think it's gonna even happen in this book. As much as I do like the character, I also think that she is there for one purpose for me personally, and that's just to input in, hey, Hadrian might learn something new about this alien race now. Like, that's it. That it's just basically. I enjoy that more than the romantic aspect of Valka for him. I do hope that he finds somebody, for him. But
bring
yeah.
back Cat. Bring
back Cat. Yeah. And age her up, right, appropriately.
Yeah,
but,
age her up. Age her.
But yeah, do you have any predictions, guys? Ian or?
Yeah, you want to go? You want to go
it.
first?
So, I think that Hadrian is going to find something similar to a Rosetta Stone, probably a Caliga, but I think we get something like that by the end of this book to help sort of set up the next one. And I think that it's going to come down to the fact that Hadrian can do this because he's so interested in languages that he's learned this diversity, in particular Cielsen. So I think that's ultimately like what's being set up, is that he's going to be able to actually recognize and decipher this, because it's going to require, because, like, what I think is probably going to happen is that it's going to be something where remnants of this particular ancient rays have weeded themselves into various into the development of various cultures and languages. And so it's in particular because he knows Cielcin and because he knows these other languages that he's going to be able to recognize that there is this type of Rosetta Stone. And I think that specifically with Caligod being ruins versus like the obelisk, I think that he will find it, and I think he'll find it by the end of the book, but maybe not. I think that this will also set him up to leave a mesh rather than going to Tukros. Now I think that he's going to be trying to track down further evidence of the quiet. I think that we're going to get a revelation by the end of the book from Valka of where to go next, or that she knows something particularly interesting about the quiet that she's been keeping secret. Like maybe she has actually discovered something that she just doesn't want to share yet. I think Legia Voss, I think she becomes our next sort of villain. And that this might mean that she's either trying to take Hadrian to the Chantry or just particularly trying to get rid of him. I'm not quite sure yet in terms of how she's going to approach that situation, but I think she is our next villain. I think that we probably will not be seeing Hadrian's family for some time. I don't know how long that will be, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't really see them recur for, a book and a half, let's say a half of a book or something. So the rest of this one plus some of next one. And then I think ultimately we're not going to get any resolution with Hadrian's betrothal anytime soon. Honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if he left Amesh by the end of this book and was still betrothed, presumably. But we'll see.
Nice. Yeah, I have some similar predictions as well. So yeah, I think they're gonna find some artifact in how do they say it in the audiobook? Caliga. But I do think it's gonna ultimately end up in the hands of Legia Voss or whatever. I think Valka and Hadrian are gonna get separated. I don't think Valka's gonna die, but I do think they're gonna be separated by the end of this book. I put Hadrian leaves Emesh? ? Mostly because I think maybe he's gonna maybe end up on a moon by the end of this book. Not quite leave.
All it takes is a chapter.
And
then he's on another story. So
yeah, that's true. And then my big one is that Suri Lomas is a traitor. He's with them at Caliga. He's working for a house that directly works for the Chantry. He's funded this expedition. Seems too good to be true to me. So I think maybe he is how the artifact they find, if they find one, ends up with Legia Voss. So yeah, I think that's where we're headed. But I'm excited to be wrong about all of them, except for Valka. I hope Valka lives. I'm not gonna lie, I like Valka a lot. I would be sad if she died, but I would get it. It certainly seems like she's being set up to be burned at the stake in front of Hadrian or something. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a great ending for her, but maybe.
I do think he does end up betrothed. I think that's going to be his. I think somehow. Balian's gonna die, probably through the traitor, the lictor, and then I do think that he will come into power, marrying the daughter, and that's how his whole next journey is, and he'll take it from there. Maybe, that's how the plot continues. But
and I will say this is. Oh, go ahead.
I was to say I'm a little similar, kind of to both of you. I think that Anais is gonna actually go with him. I think that they will leave together for whatever reason. I think I want to stick with that prediction from last time. I think she goes, and I think Polino and Switch go. Maybe not Polino, but I think Switch definitely is going to leave when Hadrian leaves. Although that would be another brutal death to kill off Switch.
Ooh.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. Make sure to call her by her full title though. The full-breasted ice sculpture.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
that is as dumb as a
what
puddle.
A crew! Full-breasted ice sculpture and Stitch.
Yeah, so I'm not really saying this is my prediction, but I will say that in terms of motivation for a character, if we wanted to see a motivating event that launches Hadrian from where he is now to the Hadrian that will be the Sun Eater, the Chantry completely wiping Amesh off the galactic map
That would
would
be
be a great
crazy.
way to launch that character. And they brought up the idea of like world-ending weapons. So
Yeah,
if we were to see that in this book, that's a great way to put Hadrian directly aimed at
that's true.
the
Yeah.
Hadrian we see later. So
How did they describe it as like I can't remember. It's almost like they turn the plant to like glass or something like that.
yeah, he could have used actually the same language that they used in like the Halo series, but he actually mentioned several different things they do. So sometimes they introduce plagues,
Mm,
sometimes they just bomb the planet, and he said that yeah, they can also just literally burn the surface of the planet,
mm.
and like almost turn it to glass. Yeah, and that's actually that itself. I wouldn't be surprised if part of that was sort of inspired by the Halo series, because in that series, that's the horror of the Covenant, which you don't really get to see in the games. But they will sort of appear in the orbit of a planet, and then they will just rain like hot plasma onto the surface of the planet and literally turn it like to actual glass. Like it will literally boil the surface of the planet into glass. And that's how they like attack the humans. And it's
Oof.
like it's the
That
books
would be
the books do.
crazy. I gotta say,
Yeah,
that would be
the
crazy.
the that is actually like I know the Halo series as a book series is kind of weird because of the fact that it started as a game series, but the book series is like so good, because of the fact that it positions, the way it positions like Master Chief, the main character. Um, it goes into like how all the other Spartans died, because he's
Mm.
not the only one, but it goes into how they all died, which leads into like the first game. And so then when you play back the first game, you're just like, I'm gonna murder every single Covenant.
That is awesome. I gotta pick
Revenge.
that up now.
Yeah.
Like that seems very interesting. I was a big fan of all the Halos,
Hmm.
so
Yeah, the
that is
first,
awesome.
even if you just read the first book, it's really good. Like they did a really really good job with that one. But yeah, but you get this moment where it's just like it actually happens a few times in the book, but there's a couple dramatic ones. But one of the first times you actually just like they just like they get to a planet like as it's being destroyed. They're like, there's nothing we can do. Like it's already done. Like
Yeah.
what do you do? The whole planet has been turned to a massive molten core, right? Like molten marble. It's crazy. It's really crazy. But like the idea that the Chantry could just be like, we pop into orbit, and now we're just going to nuke the entire surface of your planet,
Yeah. Well,
right?
and
I
just
mean,
the
that could
fact
just
that they
happen
could
anytime.
use that against, they could
Yeah,
say it's the
using
Cielson that did it.
technology.
Yeah.
Cielson did it, or yeah,
Yep.
or like the
Well,
dem.
no. It's always been about the hypocritical. It's pretty heavy in this book. Is that the hypocrisy of the Chantry, right? Like they use this technology that they ban from everyone else.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not saying
So
it would be the Cielson. I'm saying
yeah.
they could then say it was the
Yeah.
Cielson to
Hmm.
cover up. Like I can't imagine the Chantry would say, "Yep, we did that. We did it." Cause I think they would blame obviously someone else and use that to their advantage. To incite violence against the Cielson or the Demarchy. They could blame it on the Demarchy somehow. Or I can't imagine. I just don't see the Chantry taking owning up to that. Um,
Mm.
but yeah,
I don't know. I feel like they could just chalk it up to the whole planet was full of heretics, and then
Mm.
it deserved to burn, and then no one would bat an eye in the system. Really,
Yeah.
I guess they would just fear the Chantry more, which is what they
put the
want.
fear
So
put the fear of Earth in
Mm.
them,
Yeah.
you
as
know,
they say.
yeah. So don't harbor this technology, or don't harbor heretics or something like that. You know,
Yeah,
send a message.
that's true.
But anyway, yeah, I agree. So
Well, very cool. Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up. We got one more part. We're gonna be finishing the book. So, if you have watched up to this point, well, thanks for watching, and
Mhm.
we will catch you in a couple weeks for the finale. And like Ian said, we're gonna separate. So like that video will just be exactly what we just did for the final part, and then we'll kind of do a separate video with our barf reviews as well as like what do we think of the book as a whole. In a separate, probably shorter video. But any other closing remarks from you, gentlemen?
Yeah, well, just to say as well, we've got the Malazan series. We'll be doing a recording for the next part here pretty soon, which will finish off that book. So basically, over the next like 6 weeks or so, you're probably going to see that video come out, you're going to see a barf review of Memories of Ice, that book that we're just about to finish, and then you will see part 4 for this, and then a barf review for this, and then likely, usually we take a break after we finish a book in a series, so that's probably going to lead us up to about Thanksgiving, and so there might be a break kind of going into the holidays, but you'll start to see the next books coming pretty soon. So stay tuned for the next ones. We're really excited for those, and it'll be really awesome to be running into 2026, getting to start, these next books in the series. And I'm very excited.
Yeah. All right, Los.
I just wanted to say thanks for letting me jump in, guys.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely.
This has been a blast. So I'm excited to finish it with you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
All right, hit the audience with our classic goodbye, Los. You know it. Play the theme song. Play the theme song. Okay, I'll play the theme song. All right, bye everyone.
The theme song, please.
Okay, bye everybody. Remember, we are.
Don't tell me what to make. I don't care about your take. It's my channel, and I do what I want. Wow!